All right, all right, all right. It's all kicking off, guys. It's all kicking off. Poilievre has now released his costed platform.
This is my plan for change. First, we will cut the Liberal deficit by 70% by cutting back on bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid to dictators, terrorists, and global bureaucracies, slashing money for special interests, and unleashing $500 billion of extra economic growth by unlocking the power of our resources and home building.
These numbers are a joke. We aren't in a joke. We are in the worst crisis of our lives. It takes a serious government. It takes a serious plan. It takes a plan that delivers today. It takes a plan that delivers investment. It takes a plan that grows this economy, stands up to Trump, and moves forward with the brilliance of the workers here and across Quebec and across Canada.
Overall, he says he can save $125 billion by and in so doing cut the Liberal deficit by 70%. So there's a PDF document on the Conservative Party of Canada website if you're interested. But let's see here. I want to show you that PDF document. A quick look through the table here, and you'll see that most of the money coming in is coming from this $20 billion that Canada will raise from retaliatory tariffs. I have no problem with that. The Liberals have the exact same number in their platform, the same $20 billion. They're expecting that money would only come in for the first year, as you should. Pierre will also increase his tax cut over 4 years till they arrive at that 15% tax cut that he promised on the campaign trail. Crucially, that will only come to full realization at the end of the 4 years. Under the Liberal platform, you get more right away. But by the end of the fourth year, the Conservative platform will give you a bigger tax cut in the end. In this second page here, he wants to restructure where money is going to be spent and save more money. So this is where defunding the CBC and other crown corporations comes in. So he will also cancel the gun buyback program and end the housing accelerator program. Restructuring government spending like this will save about $23 billion, and they'll end up with $100 billion in new deficit over the next 4 years, compared to $130 billion in new spending that Mark Carney put in his platform. Obviously, right away, you see that Poilievre is running a lower deficit compared to Mark Carney, but he's running a deficit nonetheless. Like I told you that he would. Like I told you guys, none of these guys was going to balance the budget. There you go. But here's what struck me here. Obviously, the actual deficit for Mark Carney, when you include the plans that Trudeau already committed to, like dental care and $10 a day childcare, well, the deficit under the Liberals rises up to $225 billion. Poilievre in his platform says he will preserve existing dental care coverage and honor existing deals with provinces and territories on childcare and pharmacare. Well, I went and looked over Poilievre's numbers to see if he included those numbers in his math when it comes to the deficit. Well, obviously, Pierre Poilievre didn't actually add those numbers to his deficit. If he did, the deficit would be a bit more. Like, is Pierre Poilievre lying about keeping pharmacare, dental care, and $10 a day childcare? Like, politicians would never lie, right? Right? Here's the other thing I noticed. There are a few assumptions on the revenue side. There's revenue gain from repealing the EV mandates, to which is put a number of $11 billion if you sum up the whole line over 4 years. Revenue gain from axing the carbon tax in full, that's another $8 billion or so. There are a few lines there with numbers thrown in representing revenue. Like, I like this accounting right here. You know what I could do right now? I could imagine all the revenue I might make if I became a full-time YouTuber instead of having a career or doing YouTube as a side hustle. Imagine all the millions I could make right here, right now. Like, of course, that's not how you do this math, right? Because here's the thing. Not everyone who becomes a YouTuber will make Mr. Beast type of money, right? No, not everybody who becomes a YouTuber will make money at all. Poilievre is projecting that he will make all this money by cutting this and that. Well, that's very optimistic. That's all I'm going to say, right? You just shouldn't do that. And they've put some big numbers on cracking down on criminal tax evasion and overseas tax havens. I think that one's a special dig at Mark Carney, to be fair. That's another $13 billion in revenue. Again, optimistic, very optimistic. To be fair, when you flip back to the Liberals' platform and what they're promising savings from increased government productivity. So they think they can raise $28 billion from increasing government productivity. That's what the Liberals think in their platform. Well, that's probably their own version of cutting red tape and improving government efficiency and reducing consultants, probably. So lots of government waste that they want to try and clean up there. Is that realistic? You guys let me know. You do let me know what you think. But I will say that the Conservatives have a similar line in their platform. Here it says return spending on external consultants to 2015 levels. That's like 24 billion in the Conservative platform. Here's a theme that cuts across Poilievre's platform that worries me a little bit. Here he says he wants to return CMHC operating expenses back to 2015 levels. He also speaks about returning spending on external consultants to 2015 levels. And then there's this one right here where he says he wants to reduce funding for artificial intelligence initiatives. See, that bothers me because it would seem that Poilievre is trying to reset Canada back to 2015 levels in a world that is always looking forward. Like AI is the future. And this plan shows that Conservatives are not understanding or embracing that. AI is the future of productivity, and Canada needs to have a place in that future. In contrast, the Liberal platform is offering an AI adoption tax credit for small and medium scale enterprises, and they have an allocation for commercialization of Canada's AI in their platform. Right here, right now, I worry that with Poilievre's plan, we're chasing a path that is behind us and is unattainable again. Like sort of like the US is doing in many aspects now. So in this, I'll say Mark Carney wins on the future outlook of his platform. There's a potential for big payoffs there if we can grow that industry here in Canada. With Poilievre's plan, I worry that he's relying too much on the private sector to drive that growth that Canada needs. To be fair, Poilievre hasn't made a secret that that's what he wants to do. He wants the private sector to do the heavy lifting. The problem is Poilievre criticizes corporations, but he's giving them the opportunity to own everything. He's creating more business for businesses like Brookfield and other big corporations, essentially, because that's what happens when you commercialize everything. Poilievre is focusing on creating an environment that is ripe for investment without government intervention. Carney is looking to drive private investment with government money, right? And that is the fundamental choice in this election. Whether that growth is going to be driven by policy or fundamentally by whether that growth will be seeded by government money. That's the fundamental choice in this election. The growth potential from both plans is maybe a bit more difficult to chart out. For example, in a time where the US is trying to steal our investment dollars and take our share of manufacturing back to the US, is Canada as attractive an option for private investors to put money in, especially when the government doesn't really try and seed that development? Also, in Poilievre's platform, I don't really see any orientation towards diversifying our trade here. Poilievre is cutting the entire carbon tax, right? And we know that we need a price on carbon in order to trade with Europe. So are you just giving up on trading with Europe? Are you giving up on diversifying our trade? The Liberals do have that in their platform. They have a line item on diversifying trade. There's also $500 million that they've allocated for the carbon border adjustment mechanism. On Mark Carney's side, the danger is that they'll spend all this money and achieve absolutely nothing or very little, right? That happens a lot in government. The growth part of that equation is very important with these two plans. Which of these plans will tangibly increase GDP the most? It's not just about saving money just for the sake of it, right? I'll leave those forecasts to the economists. I'm sure they'll tell us over the next few days whose plan is better for potentially for Canada's economy. But I'll put this simply. The better platform depends on your priorities as a voter. If you value fiscal restraint and deficit reduction, then Poilievre's platform might appeal to you more. If you prioritize investment in public services and long-term growth, then Carney's platform could be more attractive, right? So it's just a matter of philosophy there. But I've got to say, I think Elections Canada or somebody should force these candidates to release their costed platforms at least 2 weeks before Election Day. So certainly before the debates, right? This would have been a better use of debate time instead of questions about buying strawberries. Like they basically wasted 2 hours in each debate talking about all sorts of hypotheticals when we could have been talking about these plans. We could have been talking about this. Like it would have been more beneficial to talk about the platforms in the debates. Imagine if we knew before the debates that Mark Carney was planning to add $225 billion to the federal deficit over 4 years. Like it doesn't matter how he justifies that. Like, I'd have loved to see that debate. Imagine if Poilievre told you before the debate that he is also going to operate the deficit. And also, he's trying to send us back to friggin' 2015 in a world that is rapidly evolving. Like, that would have been a useful debate to have. Like, I am annoyed. I am so annoyed. Like, I would have loved that debate. Like, we could have been talking about these things. I say all that, but did Trudeau actually match his costed platform? No, he blew past the guardrails. Like, that's exactly what he did. So, to be fair, it's hard to pinpoint whether these costed platforms are actually useful. But I think while the actual costs on the platforms are not necessarily useful, but yeah, good to see the direction that the government will look to go. That's my opinion, right? So you could argue these costed platforms mean nothing but fresh air and vibes, but at least they show you the direction the government is going. Anyways, you guys getting on the chat, let me know which of these plans makes the most sense to you and why. Has any of these platforms changed your vote? And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button right now and join the conversation. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.